Okay, what was the video you were mentioning about Louis Vuitton?
There was a viral video last week, I believe, where a person was videotaping kids running out, about 10 or 12 kids running out of Louis Vuitton, all stealing stuff, and the caption just read, well, the express line at Louis Vuitton seems to be working fine.
Well, I did not know you were going to bring that up. Prior to the show, I came across this from CBS in Chicago. Chicago police have issued a formal warning after continued robberies on and around the city's Magnificent Mile at a time when stores continue to leave while others fight to stay in business after big pandemic hits. CBS 2's Tara Molina reported that retail leaders say the problem is so bad that new business is hesitant to move in. That hesitation stems not only from the continued retail theft and robbery issue here and across the city, but the perception that the city is not a safe place to be right now. I think it's more than a perception.
Yeah.
A stretch of North Michigan Avenue remains vacant and locked up, telling of the struggle of the city's Magnificent Mile. Former tenants like Macy's and Disney are gone, and there are no plans for a new tenant for the old Macy's space at the Water Tower Place anytime soon. I bet everyone listening to me knows exactly where I'm speaking of in Chicago. I think it does not help in terms of the recovery for downtown Chicago, said Rob Carr, president and CEO of the Illinois Retail Merchants Association. The impression around the nation is that Chicago is not a very safe place to be, and the incidents we saw this morning and over the weekend, the episodes before that, only feed that. The tax loss related to these continued crimes hits the city, county, and state. With continued robberies in the area, Chicago police have issued a warning about suspects only described as young men in their teens robbing items on display. No one is in custody, and the robberies are still under investigation. It's a serious problem. We have to address it, said Alderman Brian Hopkins, adding the impact on the city is much bigger than the police warning because shoppers and visitors aren't the only people taking notice. The commercial brokers tell us that when they get potential interest from a tenant, that's one of the first questions they ask is what's happening in Chicago to stem the tide of retail shoplifting rings that have been operating with impunity downtown. And we don't have a good answer for that. This was once. That's why it was called the Magnificent Mile.
The only answer adds to your overhead, and it's doors locked at all times. You have to be allowed in, and armed guards, and no display cases. Here's a photo. If you want it, we'll bring it out back. But here's the guy with the firearm. So,
and didn't we have a story where there was a case of that, Kenny, a jewelry store, and the couple put this, I don't remember where it was, but the couple said, well, they're racist because they only asked us whatever we wanted. I thought that was on this show. I thought we talked about that.
I do not remember that.
Okay.
And the police are beside themselves because the state's attorney's office is reluctant to prosecute retail theft. So what you have now are armed crews of armed robbers in downtown Chicago.
Yep. It's an industry, Joe.
And this will happen. We've been saying it for years. This is going to happen the closer you get to the country's tallest buildings. The left is ruining urban America. It's already happening in Minneapolis and St. Paul. These are very hollowed out places, or soon to become rather obviously hollowed out. I haven't been on the Nicollet Mall in ages. I don't know what it's like.
Okay, here's a tweet from 21 hours ago from somebody I occasionally check up on called the Gay Dispatcher. He or she is a dispatcher in Chicago. Here's the tweet. There was a police officer shot in the face yesterday in Chicago, yet this was the headline in today's Sun-Times. And he or she printed a picture of the Sun-Times, and the headline is, Worst Responders, First Responders. And it's a piece ripping police and such in Chicago.
Really?
Yep. Well, that's where we're at as a country. Country's committing suicide. We said this over a year ago. Yeah.
The Cook County State's Attorney's Office released the following statement with regard to concerns on the Magnificent Mile. We recognize community concerns around crime and the impact it can have on one's sense of safety, as well as the economic stability of a business. We continue to prosecute retail theft cases as misdemeanors and felonies when appropriate to do so based on the facts and evidence. The state's attorney's office said this year to date, its prosecutors have reviewed and issued charges for 38 retail theft cases, zip code 60611, which includes the Magnificent Mile and Streeterville. A total of 18 were approved for felony. 10 were prosecuted and convictions were obtained for 6. The state's attorney's office also noted that in December 2016, state's attorney Kim Fox increased the threshold for felony retail theft to $1,000, which the office said has allowed the prosecutors to focus on the drivers of violence rather than low-level nonviolent offenses. Thus, those kids streaming out of Neiman Marcus they're not going to be looked at.
Nope.
That'll be considered low-level and nonviolent.
Yep.
Prosecutors said misdemeanor charges are issued for some thefts, but those are not included in the aforementioned data. The state's attorney's office also said this year to date, it has reviewed 82 gun cases in the 60611 zip code, approved charges on 70, prosecuted 29, and obtained convictions on 23. Isn't that a shame?
Yeah.
I think of all the times I've been to Chicago.
It used to be a great city.
I think of all the times I've been to San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York. I have no desire to ever go there again.
Joe, the ridiculous things I did in Chicago, outside, downtown, till sunup.
Yep.
I mean, seriously. And now it sounds like the middle of the day is frightening.
It's just a shame the way this is falling apart. It's just a shame.
The 4th of July celebration in Chicago was
Grant Park.
Grant Park.
Best celebration in the country.
My wife and I used to go every year for about a 5-7 year run there, and it was so much fun. You never were worried. It was just.
Did they have it this year?
I don't even know. That's a good point. I don't know.
We sat right on dangling our feet over the edge into Lake Michigan, right on the other side of the, what is that, Michigan Avenue? Mm-hmm. Right there where they launched the boats. Beautiful display.
The fireworks show that they would put
the
on.
City surrounding Grant Park. Yep. Oh my God, so many blues fests down there. Wow.
My wife and I sat with another couple who live in the area, good friends of ours, and we sat at this bar for way longer than we should have, but it was because we wanted a good seat, when they launched the fireworks off the end of Navy Pier. And it was so much fun. You never were worried about anything.
Chicago people, so fun.
Yeah.
So fun.
Yes.
Oh my God, the best people in the world to party with, although the Black Sox suck.
Are you
White Sox?
They're called the White Sox. Are you familiar with the architectural splendor of the Chicago Tribune building?
You meant to say Black Hawks, the hockey team. That's who you hate the most, not the Black Sox.
Kenny.
Speaking of MEA, Kenny is already checked out.
What's really good is the puzzled look on his face when we all made fun of him. What? What are you?
Are you guys familiar with the Chicago Tribune building on Michigan Avenue?
Very,
sure.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the same thing happened there that happened to me.
No.
They're gone.
Oh, really? They were right on the river.
Skilly, you guys know Skilly. He linked me to a piece about what happens to a newspaper when it is purchased by Alden Capital, a hedge fund. They gut them, they ruin them, and the Chicago Tribune now has a couple of 100 square feet, some other building downtown.
Because everyone's working remotely?
No, because the Alden Capital didn't want to pay for that building. Didn't want to pay for them to be in that building.
Wow.
Not to mention, they offered buyouts that reduced virtually everyone good on that paper is gone. And the gist of it is what I was saying to you guys the other day. This is going to affect your cities. The absence of newspapers, the absence of strong newspapers, is what kept people like mayors in line. They had an awakening. They had a reckoning to deal with. And, there was a day when mayors didn't get away with 25 cabinet members, all of whom have no job that can be measured for efficiency. There's no team of reporters keeping an eye on this stuff. And these hedge fund louts like Alden Capital, they don't care. They came in and harvested the place and then said, well, if you can keep going, I guess. And so these papers that Alden Capital buys, they're run with skeleton crews, including the Pioneer Press.
Wow.
And I repeat, the Star Tribune does not know how lucky it is to have been purchased by a local guy who cares that they have a newspaper. We don't see that in many cities. Alden Capital specializes. It's called vulture hedge funding. They zero in on failures then pick them even cleaner. And what you're left with is not much at all. And to think that that magnificent Chicago Tribune building does not even house the Chicago Tribune anymore.
That's insane.
It's just pathetic. And down beneath them on the avenue, the town is going under.